Oh, we went too far there. We both clicked at the same time. I should have tried this ahead of time. This is my first time. So my name's Jeff Pergel. This is Stuart McIntosh. We're a couple of security managers at a larger Fortune 500 company. And we're just going to share our story, an experiment that we've tried over the past few years. I would assume that a few of you are here because you're in the same situation or a similar situation. Maybe you're doing this, you're managing a security group. Maybe you're a technologist in a security area and you want to see how you can improve your own culture. Maybe hints and tricks, some things that you might be able to try, as well as you might be in a, oh, I know there's 3 consultants in here that work with a number of different organizations, and they probably have some input as well. I'll figure this out here in a minute, I apologize. So this is just a real quick overview of what our security organization looks like. There's kind of 3 larger buckets of work. Certainly the administration, the governance, the compliance area, and the threat, what we call threat and technology. And that's the group that that's what we're going to talk about today. So you can see these slides from the back, okay? The colors, is that all right? We're going to look at the threat and technology, a little higher burnout. There's a limited market availability to those type of resources. And the people working in those areas are the last line of defense. Where we start. We started talking about what we wanted to accomplish in terms of our specific security organization. So Stuart and I had been managers in different areas for a number of years. I had the opportunity to move over to a security area, and we started to talk about what we wanted to accomplish in our kind of our threat operations area and our architecture area. We sat down and we started talking about embracing security as a lifestyle, not a 9-to-5 job. You all know this. This is probably the world you live in. But it's amazing the number of people in a security environment that don't treat it that way, that are kind of that 9-to-5 mentality. We wanted to try to increase the speed of evolution in the security space. We wanted to try to get resources up to speed quicker, and we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. We wanted to try to build an attitude of the team before me. So a commitment to each other. The technologists had a commitment to each other, that the managers had a commitment to the team. And we wanted to use more of a human leadership model, focus on the people, not necessarily the technology. Any questions so far? Anything? Sam? Nothing? All right. So real quick, we're going to talk today about attracting people, developing people, and retaining people. We don't have all the answers. In fact, we failed in a couple of these areas, and we'll talk about some of those stories as well. We'll talk about how it's very difficult to meet some of these objectives. So attracting people. Start talking about where you find people, how you build that network. Did you like that graphic? Yeah, well, she's had a few visions like that as well, I'm sure. So great places to start. When you start looking for resources, technical colleges. You look at local security conferences, user groups, personal referrals. We had a number of people within our organization that all went to the same church. And via personal referrals, they brought other people with them. And it was kind of amazing. They had a commitment to each other, and they were looking to work with each other. It made a very strong bond with some of those individuals. So attracting talent is very difficult. How many of you are in a position where you have to try to attract talent, either at a manager level or a technologist level? All right. Where do you find people? Or where do you try to find people? High school. All right. You're drafting them right out of high school.
Just trying to find, honestly, what the overwhelming form I found in my previous role, when I'm looking for smart, intelligent people who think on people.
Right.
And not necessarily I got my degree from John Hopkins, or I got, I have a computer science engineering degree here or there.
Do you, can I ask where you are physically located, geographically? Okay. wide talent pool there, or is it pretty limited?
You seem to have either people who were doing it 10, 15 years ago, or you have people who are trying to get into it, or they've only got a year.
Okay. All right. A lot of
That middle gap area just doesn't exist.
right. And we found the same thing. All right, you either had a few people that had it, a few people that were coming out of school and maybe didn't, and you had to develop those. So anybody else struggling with attracting talent to their organization? Do you guys work for tech companies or enterprise, small business? What kind of mix do we have? Anybody care to volunteer?
I work for a university,
All right.
so we're sort of in the middle of the talent pool.
Sure. But it's easy to attract other talent to a university environment, right? Anybody else? Yeah. Bank. Hard to attract talent? Okay. It's not as glamorous as working for a tech company, right? We struggle with that. Work for an institution that's a financial institution. It's very difficult to attract people when there's a lot of higher tech opportunities or universities close by. So anybody else care to share? Yes, all in the back.
University also, but as an educator.
Okay.
So, put it out again.
All right. Well, we should talk later, see if we can work out a deal before after they're out of high school. You can have them when they're in high school. We'll take them. Yeah, so you, sir?
I work for security vendor.
Okay.
I actually start Monday.
Oh, you start Monday? All right.
But I know that they have a really good intern program,
Okay.
so they're recruiting from
All right. Maybe that's the key to success, right? And we have a pretty good, we have a university in our area, but we also have a pretty good tech school that helps. All right. So the interview process. How many of you are in a position where you're interviewing to try to hire that talent? A couple of you. Easy process, difficult process, what do you find? Okay, so gut feel, right? We usually interview together. So if we have one opening between our two groups, we will interview together, and we do a lot of gut feel as well. We hire for the passion, not necessarily for the technology. And I think that's
really what we do. I mean, I typically, for specific roles, I ask the same questions so that I can evaluate responses across all candidates, so I keep it semi-fair, but there is a bit of a set of gut feel that comes to
right.
the hiring.
Yeah. I think you just know if someone has that passion for the space or whether they're just using a lot of terminology. We have a lot of people that come in and just talk about the terminology in the security space but don't really seem to live that. One thing that we've tried that's been fairly successful is we try to talk most of our candidates out of the job, which seems counterproductive when we talk about the fact that we can't attract talent, and then we turn around in the interview, and one thing we've done with some success is we'll be around a round table, and we'll be sitting like this, talking to a candidate. And what we'll usually do is set our paper or pens aside, and we'll kind of scoot our chairs around to the individual and say, okay, 3 guys in a bar. Let's talk about why you don't want to do this. And sometimes it throws them off a little, and they say, well, that's kind of a weird situation. Maybe they're uncomfortable. 2 guys snuggle up next to them, right, in an interview situation. But I also think to be honest with them and to say, here are all the reasons why you don't want to do a job like this. It's a 24/7 commitment. All right, it's a lot of work. It's a thankless job. There's a lot of things going on that you're always on the front lines. And so to be able to tell someone all the bad things about the position and still have them have that passion and still want that, again, the gut feel, you kind of get a gut feel from that situation whether they're just there because they need a job or they're there for the right reasons. So that's helped us. We've turned away quite a few people, even though we really need talented people, just because it didn't feel like the right fit. Anybody else have any techniques that you use in an interview situation? I'm sorry, what was your name? Mike. I'll start calling you by name. I should be able to remember everyone's name here.
The one technique, I mean, it depends on what type of thing you're trying to get out of a candidate. Typically what I've
Right.
You know, things that if you see it, you're going to be upset over it because we have to deal in that world.
Sure.
You know, and then if I'm looking to see, I want someone to tell me the truth. I'll make them drive to with me in the car. I'll make them drive the interview, like for lunch.
Okay.
And that's the interview as well.
Right.
So then that way it's hard for them to watch.
Sure.
Especially engineering roles, where I usually find people like me fly a lot.
Interesting. Anybody else have any stories or in the interview process as you're going through that? Those of you who are technologists, do you get a chance to be part of that process? You don't. Why not?
I'm not management necessarily. So, plus, my organization is very small.
Okay. I would encourage you, if you get the opportunity, to ask if you can be part of that process. I think it's very good from a technologist perspective to be included when you're talking to other technologists, certainly to validate their skills and maybe their technical ability. But it also helps to feel if it's a cultural fit. When you start talking about how you want to develop a specific culture, it's nice to have other people working in that culture to say, I don't know if this guy's going to fit, right? Or to take them to lunch and figure out that it's not really the right fit. I had a interview, this was before, from a security perspective, interesting story about an interview process. Had a guy come into the office for an all-day interview. So he flies in, he meets with 5 or 10 different people. He needs to go back to the airport. And at the time, I actually worked for a company here in Indianapolis. And I said, I'm going that direction, I'll give you a ride back to the airport. So we get to the car. My opinion is he's still in an interview, right? Still part of the interview process. He said, do you mind if I change my clothes? Wanted to get into something more comfortable before he gets on the flight. So that's fine. There's a couple places we can stop on the way. He said, that's okay. I'll just do it right here. And he started to take his clothes off in my car. Now, it seemed a little uncomfortable for me. He didn't seem to mind. You think we hired the guy? You guys say no? Well, I told my boss this was the weirdest interview I ever had, and she still hired him. He didn't last long, but she hired him. So I think you got to realize.
Did he keep his clothes on in the office?
I think he kept his clothes on in the office. Thank you. Yeah, I certainly hope so. All right. Anybody else have funny interview stories? We got plenty of time.
I think the best response to an interview question
Sure.
was, how would you describe diversity? And the response was, I like Chinese food.
Is it wrong if I like the Seinfeld, right? Yeah. That's good.
That was really comprehensive. They also like the Italian. I mean, they kind of went down this path.
All right. Wow. All right. Certainly we all know this. I don't think anything we've talked about is not common knowledge, but good talent will not stay if others in the group are not of the same mindset, right? I think that's very important for us to think about is how do we create a culture where we have like-minded people? Where the people working together, especially if we've asked them a couple slides before, we've asked them to make a commitment to each other, to make a commitment to the team, to be all in 24/7. And if we don't have like-minded people, very difficult to accomplish. We have 3 people in this room who may or may not have worked in our organization and have left, not necessarily because of this, but certainly I think in part because of that specific aspect. So, are they IT people or security people? Well, we have trouble finding security people. If anybody was in Jason Lang's talk this morning, he had an excellent discussion about going from blue to red. And one of the things he talked about is a good security person, a good pen tester, will be an IT person first. Some of us believe that IT people don't make good security people, and you can see that in some scenarios. But I think if you're looking for good security people, I think they do have to have some aspect of having been successful in another IT role or have that depth of knowledge. Agree or disagree? Anybody? Mike? Mike agrees. Your name? Rick? Nick. Nick and Rick and Mike. All right. You guys all agree? All right. Have specific examples where you've seen that?
I don't think I've university course that I actually took on my way to my undergraduate degree. And that is a student had not had the background in editing. The student was pursuing a certificate of study in security. And this certificate of study, the classes do not require the prerequisites that usually are required. And so this student was seen as though they failed at each attempt of doing the labs and that sort of thing in the class and didn't really understand what was going on. And throughout each exercise, it was, I don't know this. How am I supposed to know this?
Right.
And this student complained a lot. So,
Okay.
the student didn't have the prerequisite
IT background. Right. Can you take IT people and make them good security people? Yes, I would agree as well.
I think though, I think that's the hardest part. You have a lot of people who might become security for a lot of wrong reasons.
Right. It's about the passion, right, that we talked about earlier.
But they
Come in.
come mainly for the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the job security.
I heard you guys pay better.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only concern I always have with people that want to jump from one IT discipline to security.
Oh.
We get a lot of that. That's part of the talking them out of it. We try to remove a lot of that glamour that they believe the position will need, to kind of rip it away and say, okay, at the end of the day, you still want to do this. And we've noticed that that's pretty effective at getting rid of people that are chasing it because it's either cool, they hear about it, or they think it's more money. But yeah, we see it quite a bit.
Rick, did you have a comment as well?
Instead of being like an IT security, I've seen people who try to move from, they're trying to, like, for example, IT auditors, but they've never done IT.
Right.
So they don't have a clue. They're auditing other objectives.
Right.
So similar.
Yeah. How many of you use self-selection as part of your process of restructuring a team? And what I mean by that is encourage people to look for other opportunities that don't fit the mold or don't have the passion, aren't there for the right reasons. We personally think it's the most effective way to kind of weed some of those out. You don't have to terminate a person, but you lead them to a conclusion that maybe they're better suited for other opportunities. Because we all have inherited either team members or we've inherited teams that probably have people that are misplaced. And probably good people, right? Maybe great people, but they're just not security people. And we can't get them there based on the things that we're trying to do. So having them or coaching them to find other opportunities is sometimes a very effective way that we've used to change that dynamic a little bit. All right, certainly you need to find the people who are resistant to change. You need to make some of those decisions. And encouraging people to look for other opportunities allows us to build the staff that we're trying to build by creating those openings on a natural basis. All right, any questions or comments so far? Mike? All right. I'm going to ask the three people we haven't met yet, or that I don't know in the room, sorry, in the white shirt. Your name?
My name is Alex.
Alex.
I am an intern.
All right. How come you're not working for us? Well, we'll talk to you afterwards, okay? Actually, we're not here to recruit. We're not here to sell anything, but you're in a great position. So,
I'm loving it so far.
Good.
I don't have a background in security necessarily, but I have a lot of the prerequisites, just kind of life and studies and everything. And I kind of grew up in a town. Our computer classes were few and our important classes were many.
all right. Somewhere in Indiana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I really, most of the things that I've studied have just been on my own. And, oh, that looks interesting. And, video games are cool. So,
Sure.
networking on the video game side of things, that kind of
Oh, good. And your name again, Alex? Alex. Alex, did you meet Sam up here in the front? All right, that's Sam. We're such a small group. We're going to introduce ourselves to each other. I hope you're okay with that. Jason Lang is back there. Scott Berner sitting next to him. In the green shirt. Matt? And you said you're working for a vendor. Who is that? Okay, great. Thank you. In the back? Glenn, thank you. And our new friend? Bob. All right, thanks. Any other questions, concerns? I'm going to hand it over here to my friend Stuart, and he's going to take us next few slides.
So after we bring in people that we're looking for, there's typically some work to do as far as getting them up to speed with security, getting them up to, I have one. Well, it's easier for me. So what are we doing with developing people? A lot of this is we're hiring IT people and trying to make them security. We have security people that we're trying to make better security people. And we also have a lot of green people. So one of the last hires that I had actually came out of a call center, never worked in IT, never worked in security. So how do you bring them into a culture that you can get them up to speed quickly and on their feet? So the first thing we start with is traditional training. We kind of dubbed it traditional. It's what you think of when you hear training. So we actually do quite a bit with online training so that people can do it at night or on their own time. We also go to some formal training as well. The conferences we've actually gotten more involved in, especially regionally, and then certifications as well. What's interesting is looking outside of some of the security certifications and trying to find people with deeper IT experience as well. So some of the traditional stuff. Non-traditional, this is what we've actually spent most of our time doing the last few years, is trying to evolve this kind of half of development work. So unexpected certifications, OSCP, it was something new to our group when actually Scott went through it, and it kind of spread like wildfire because we saw how it accelerated and kind of augmented people's view of security and helped bring it home to what counts rather than all the flash and glitz. FamCon, we actually started just our own internal security gathering. It was just a bunch of people that wanted to do projects together, and it morphed into actually a CTF that we built ourselves that involved both a physical challenge and digital. Maker and hacker spaces, we have some in town. They're popping up in a lot of places. It allows you access to things like MakerBots or CNC machines that you may not have the money or means or funds, but it's being around more people that have kind of those outside ideas or can help you learn some of those tools as well. Lockpicking, we used to have like a lot of those vendor stress balls around. Well, a lot of that's been replaced with different padlocks and lockpicks, why people sit at desks. And probably the most significant out of all of these is something kind of dubbed hack therapy. It's actually what this group was, so the previous people that may have worked at our company, it's what they did really well as well. We would take Fridays or half-day Fridays, and we would just hack. We'd just work on things. We'd download VulnHub images and go after them. We'd learn to use a new security tool that came out or a new script that came out. But it's respecting that time so that people can learn and keep up to date with things. So it's free, and all you have to do is make some time for it and push back on managers so that they allow it and don't yell at you about why your projects aren't getting done. So yeah, it's definitely one I recommend. Retaining people. So for this, after you make this investment in people and you've found the right ones and you've built them up and they're great contributors now, how do you keep them? So these are some of the things that we've done to try to hold people a little bit longer before they get recruited away. One of them is rotating work. There's definitely a higher burnout when someone's name is replaced with what technology they support. So they're like, hey, that's the that's the single sign-on guy, or that's the Active Directory guy, rather than what your name is. So what we try to do is rotate that work around so that it doesn't become synonymous with one person. There's varying degrees of success we've been able to do this, but it's where we've been able to, it's made a big difference. New technologies. As a department, we've actually pushed to be involved and on the edge of a lot of stuff. So in our company, I know mobile's not new, but it was our company about 5 years ago. Our security team was actually at the forefront of it. A lot of the cloud stuff, a lot of the stuff that's new or the execs are hearing about, we try to be involved with. And then separate tool budget. It's not cheating. It's just hiding. We created our own budget area within the system that gets approved. It's a nominal amount of money, but what it is it's an area that we can approve the expenses so that we can go out and buy tools. So if you need new adapters, if you want a Raspberry Pi to play with, buy it. So it's kind of like this reserve budget in order to try to keep up with things and not have to go through the scrutiny of explaining why this applies to security. Just go out and get it. And then the last one, open culture. I really think that this helps keep people around because it makes you care about the people. The work's there. Sometimes the work sucks more than it does on other days. But I think that by having that open culture and where people are open enough to say what they need to say, good, bad, and different, that you actually build that camaraderie and the people want to be there and be a part of something bigger than them.
So we've made, before we get to the... go ahead. You do this.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. We certainly have made a lot of mistakes in terms of retaining people. That's the hardest thing, and I think we wouldn't be honest with you or ourselves if we said we were good at it, because we have lost a lot of good talent. Now, the market drives that. Mike's shaking his head, yes, you've gone through that same thing, right? You're building these people. As Stuart says, he invests a lot of time and effort and energy. Mike, go ahead.
I was saying, the way I always phrase it is that we've got about 2 years. And I encourage managers to stay for 2 years before you miss your runoff. And I'm like, during that 2-year period, you also get a lot of training in, they're trying to build you up. You should be a far better analyst from day 0 to day 8.
Right.
And we try to really try to drive that.
So how do you feel when people leave? What does it do to the team? What does it do to the organization?
I actually encourage people to leave.
Good.
Simply because of the fact that you know they're going through, and it's their life, their career, and I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, some people, you don't want to say anything, but you know that they want to grow.
Right.
You know, it is hard. It can be hard. But I don't know. I'm really excited the fact that most people, when we get 2 years out of it, so let's have a good time and try to see how far we can go in a 2-year period.
Good. Anybody else have that in their organization? A challenge of retaining good talent? I like Mike's approach. I mean, it certainly sounds like the right way to do it. We've struggled with that. It's always hard to lose friends, people that you care about from a team perspective, people that are leading. We're not losing the people on the bottom of the stack, right? You're losing the good talent. And we've tried to come to a conclusion that we're not losing people, we're kind of launching them into other opportunities, and we can still stay connected and engaged. And it really helps to build that larger security footprint. So, thanks for sharing, Mike.
So, kind of building on that people aspect of it, with the retaining, one of the things we're looking at is relationships. So, what we've noticed is that the colder the team is to kind of each other, the rougher it is to get work done, the less, the crankiness goes through the roof, and it's hard to run a team like that. So, one of the things, these are just some things that we've tried building. Oh,
Let you hold the mic.
these are just some things that we've tried as far as building or strengthening relationships within the team. We'll just kind of go around. Open and honest, again, feeding off of that open culture. Family involvement. This was just another, hey, let's try it kind of thing. And it's amazing when people meet each other's spouses, significant others, kids, and they start remembering names and kind of connecting the pieces, and you cross that work-home barrier, it's amazing how much harder it is to get angry at someone if they didn't get their project done. Because maybe they're having a rough time at home, maybe something's going on. So it kind of rounds out that aspect of the entire person and not just what slot do they fill, what cube do they sit in. Battle buddies. I had a guy quit 4 days into working on our team. So we hired him. He came in on Monday, and by Friday he said, hey, I gotta have a meeting with you. I was like, yeah, no problem. How's your first week? I'm quitting. So he gave me his 2-week notice on the Friday, and part of it was me. So I wanted to know why. Hey, what prompted such a quick change? I thought this is something you wanted, and a lot of it was I left him alone. I basically put him in a project room with a vendor and a bunch of unhappy project people, and just left them alone. Just fend for yourself.
No windows in the basement of a building, right?
And I may not have shown him where the bathroom was, so he even had to go ask people where that was, so my bad. But out of it came this idea that we really need to pair people up. If they're new to the organization or they're new to the team, or even if they're not new, just to change up those kind of relationships of, hey, together we'll get this project done, to help kind of strengthen the camaraderie again. And let people know that, hey, if it's rough for you, I'll pull some of the weight on this. So, stretch, not break. Again, that would be me breaking people. So I've had to back off some of that. Non-work events. We've had an interesting group where we've kind of pushed each other's fears, and definitely how close we are. When you're in a swimming pool sharing regulators, scuba diving, you get over a lot of stuff pretty quick. So we've been able to do quite a few things outside of work that I think has definitely shown that vulnerable side. So we had someone who's afraid of heights go on this ropes course with us. We had someone who's afraid of swimming go scuba diving with us. And when you allow yourself to be that vulnerable around coworkers, and you see that they're not judging you for it, and they're actually supportive, it really opens that up in the workplace so that you can call them out on things like, hey, why do you have an attitude lately? And they know that you're coming from a good place with it. So, and then shared passion. I mean, it comes back to, if you don't like what you're doing, this isn't going to work out. There's not a lot of thank yous in this, so you better like the work. And then having fun. I mean, we always try to just keep it light, but we know when to knuckle down and get work done. Blind spots, these are the failures. So when we were doing this, there's definitely some spots where we didn't realize we would run into issues, but we did. So the first one, maxed influence. We're not a tech company, and so the company doesn't always make as much investment in tech or security that they should be. So there's this natural barrier that we hit where our ability to stay growing and maturing as a security group kind of curtails to what the company feels, hey, this is a right fit for us as a company. Our goal is to always push that maxed level up, but it is different depending on what company you're in. And then enjoying the sunsets. Jeff actually told me when I really enjoyed managing the group, he set me aside and said, enjoy it, it's not gonna last. I was like, well, that's not a very optimistic view of the world.
I don't believe that's exactly what you said, but
well,
okay.
It's close. and so this idea of treating every day kind of like a sunset and actually enjoying when the things are working well and taking time to appreciate, because it can come apart pretty quick just with, hey, new opportunities, or you get restructured as a security group and they fold you outside of IT and they put you underneath audit and risk, or, things change. The bad apple, this one's a tough one, because I think if you're a manager, you have to get poor attitudes out of your team. I mean, you just have to. If there's even one bad attitude, you can watch it silence a room immediately. And when people are around that every day, it makes them want to look. And in this field, they don't have to look far to find another opportunity. So If you're in management, it's your job to help pull that out. If you're not in management, please help management understand that it's affecting the team and help articulate it. And then size of the tank. Part of why some people leave is just there's opportunities out there that we can't offer. So if you want to be a full-time pen tester, it's just we don't need a full-time pen tester. So there's this maxed size that we can help support that security growth or that maturity that, hey, they'll probably help you grow quicker in other roles or at other companies. And this is going back to I think it's really important. So we may have seen people get resentful when someone leaves our organization that's really good. And it's such a bad approach because it makes them just want to leave even more. Like, it helps vindicate what they're doing and justify it. Whereas what we've noticed is if we help support it and embrace the fact that they're getting a better opportunity, you'll still keep those connections. You'll still keep that sense of a family, even though you don't see them every day at work. We're in a small area, and there's maybe 100 security people in like a 4 or 5 county area. So you're going to run into them, or you're going to need to ask them a question. It's better when they're still your friends. So.
And I like Mike's approach too. Just going back to that, what he said, you know people are going to leave from a management or leadership perspective, upper management. You have to factor that into the equation and wish them well. It's a small world. You're going to run across them again. And if we take that at it, in fact, I think I might want to go work for Mike if you've got openings. You sound like a great manager. Because I think that's the absolute way to do it, is to encourage people to get a better opportunity, look at other opportunities. We talk openly in our groups about other opportunities that are out there. You can't hide it. Right? Every day you're getting hit up on LinkedIn, or you're getting other proposals, other opportunities, vendors, whatever it might be. If you pretend it doesn't happen or it doesn't exist, I think it's a very bad approach to take. I think you have to encourage people to talk about it. What are you looking for? What are your development goals? Can we meet those here, or is it time to look at other things? Yeah, Mike?
So, are we asking?
You can ask questions through the whole thing. I'm sorry. I should have.
I had a question on one thing you said earlier. You're talking about people who stay. And my question is, do you find an experience that typically the people who stay, especially the longest, are usually the ones who probably
Yes. I think that's probably true. Scott, Jason, you go ahead. I'm sorry. You had your hand up? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I disagree with that.
Okay.
But I missed out on the first part of the conversation.
That's fine.
Well, let me clarify. I'm not saying that all people are like that, but my experience has been, I found, especially in organizations that I've gone into, and about every 4 or 5 years, I usually get tired of the place. I'm like, okay, it's my turn to leave. But I usually find that if I go to an organization, there are people who've been there in the same role for 10 years, and they, or they, or, you know what I mean? I guess caveat that by saying the same role for 10 years. I mean, okay, I worked for EDS and HP, which merged in 2008
Yep.
for almost 18 years.
Yeah.
I love it. I enjoy it. They treat me well. I'm happy. I get offers all the time. I haven't sent out a resume to another company in 18 years. That says something.
Sure.
I'm a very good performer. So, I understand what you're saying also. I've done a lot of different things throughout that time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's differences.
Yep.
That's also, like I said, I didn't hear the first part of your conversation. How big is your organization?
20,000. We're a Fortune 500.
And you actually, you do this stuff around, take a half day on Friday. See, okay.
We're building a culture within a culture. So that's not necessarily the way our organization would want us to work. We've got project deliverables. We've got things that have to be done. But if we don't do that, we don't retain talent.
I love that approach. Some of the things you mentioned up there, I would buy into.
And it,
But getting that implemented, you're talking about an organization of 20,000, getting that implemented in, say, HP, it's 330,000.
Right.
It isn't going to happen.
But I think our security organization is 50 people. So, and our two groups together are 20 people. Between our two groups, we can go to our project room on a Friday afternoon when we have what we would call flexible hours. Not as many people around, it's a little quieter, not as many tickets, and we can spend a couple hours doing some of those things.
I will tell you this, we lose good people.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why is because they see things that are, let's say, smaller companies are doing, they have a different culture, and they go with that.
Yep.
Some of it's money, some of it's other things, but a lot of it is the culture. And I've seen good people leave that would not have left had the culture been a little different, more like what you're
Yep.
expounding there.
And we still lose people. But I think we've talked about this, we keep them longer than maybe we would have normally kept them.
I think building on Mike's idea, we extend that duration of how long they stay around. Eventually, those other aspects will catch up. Eventually, those outside opportunities will be able to offer things that are better aligned with where they want to go than what we can offer. But our goal is to try to extend as long as possible their tenure at our company, because and it's not even, it's almost exponential. If you can extend someone that's that high performance in your group 6 months, it's amazing what your organization can get back from that. It's worth every ounce of effort to try to keep them, because when you're replacing them with someone who came out of a call center, you got to start the cycle over again. And that's one of the things we've kind of tried to do, is create the cycles where we're always feeding that pipeline in. And that's why, to us, all three of these are kind of connected. You need to attract and develop people faster than you're losing the best, because we know we're going to lose the best. So we need to keep feeding that system so that we can keep growing it and have people around. Hmm?
team with training opportunities, conference opportunities, and how do you sell that to your leadership?
So it's, yeah, and these guys know, I mean, yeah, yeah.